SG-1 stepped through the gate, weapons ready. The briefing had been clear. This world was ruled by ruthless Goa'uld, but instead of battle cries, they heard something else. Ha ha! Chevron 7 locked. The familiar kawoosh of the Stargate rippled through the gate room as SG-1 stepped onto the ramp. This was supposed to be a straightforward recon mission. Intel suggested that P3X-797 was under Goa'uld control, ruled by a minor warlord named Teal'c. Hostile territory, standard infiltration, observation, and potential sabotage if the opportunity arose. Jack O'Neill adjusted his P90. "Alright kids, keep your heads down and your zats ready. We're expecting Jaffa, and I'd rather not spend my weekend locked in another snakehead dungeon." Carter gave a curt nod, while Daniel, already lost in thought about potential historical connections, barely acknowledged him. Teal'c, as always, was a picture of readiness. Then they stepped through the gate, and immediately everything they expected went out the window. Instead of an intimidating Goa'uld stronghold or Jaffa patrols, the team found themselves in a massive open plaza. But not just any plaza. There were banners, bright yellow and blue, with a strangely familiar font. There were costumes, Jaffa warriors dressed in absurdly well-crafted outfits resembling... "Oh my god," Daniel breathed. Jack squinted at the group walking past them. One Jaffa was in full Homer Simpson attire, white shirts, blue pants, a bald cap, and an actual donut in his hand. Another, dressed as Bart, had somehow painted his entire body yellow and was skateboarding past. A third, in perfect Flanders getup, cheerfully waved and said, "How dilly doodly travelers." Jack slowly turned to his team. "I don't want to alarm anyone, but I think we just walked into a Simpsons convention hosted by Jaffa." Teal'c's face remained stoic, but there was a distinct narrowing of his eyes as he scanned the crowd. Indeed. It took a solid 15 minutes of cautiously moving through the crowd before SG-1 managed to get a semi-coherent explanation from an elderly Jaffa dressed as Grandpa Simpson. Apparently, 2 years ago, the Goa'uld Teal'c had been overthrown, not by rebellion, not by another system lord, but by the overwhelming power of the Simpsons. One day, without warning, the planet's Jaffa had picked up a rogue transmission from Earth, a garbled, decades-old Simpsons episode likely sent into deep space by accident. At first, it was a curiosity. Then it became doctrine. The Jaffa, conditioned to serve false gods, became convinced that Homer Simpson was the true ruler of Earth. His words, primarily dope, donuts, and woohoo, were considered divine scripture. Then, Grandpa Simpson Jaffa continued, "Our people rose against Teal'c, for he was an unworthy leader, lacking in both humor and wisdom." Jack rubbed his temples. "Let me guess, you overthrew him because he wasn't funny." "Correct," the Jaffa said solemnly. "We are Jaffa-Springfield." Daniel, whose whole career revolved around deciphering cultures, looked on the verge of a nervous breakdown. As they tried to process the sheer insanity of the situation, a loud drumbeat echoed across the plaza. Jaffa, still in their Simpsons attire, gathered in the center of the square. "It is time, the rite of woohoo." Jack, already exhausted, sighed. "I don't like the sound of that." A heavily built Jaffa in a Mr. Burns costume stepped forward. "You, warrior of the Tauri," he pointed at Teal'c. "I sense the strength within you. But do you possess the wisdom of Homer?" Teal'c straightened. "I do not." Gasps echoed through the crowd. Jack stepped forward. "Listen, folks, he's new to this whole thing. Big fan of deep philosophical discussions, less so of animated TV dads. Maybe we should..." "Silence," the Burns Jaffa boomed. "The trial must commence." Before SG-1 could react, Teal'c was handed a large, jelly-filled donut. Jack blinked. "Well, that's not the worst thing we faced." "You must consume the sacred donut in one bite," Jaffa Burns declared, "as the great Homer has done before. Only then shall you be deemed worthy." Daniel muttered, "This is an anthropological goldmine and a waking nightmare at the same time." Teal'c studied the donut. "Very well." Jack patted his shoulder. "Go on, buddy. I believe in you." Teal'c took a slow breath. He squared his shoulders, lifted the donut to his lips, and in one swift motion, he devoured it. The entire plaza went silent. Then roars of approval. "He is worthy. All hail the true Jaffa Simpson." Jaffa warriors dropped to their knees. Others threw their hands into the air, chanting "Woohoo, woohoo" over and over. Carter, looking absolutely bewildered, turned to Jack. "Did we just secure an alliance with an entire Jaffa colony over donut?" Jack smirked. "Carter, I think we just won diplomacy." SG-1 departed P3X 797 later that afternoon with a promise of a formal diplomatic meeting between Earth and Jaffa-Springfield. Jack debriefed General Hammond with the straightest face he could manage. "So," Hammond said slowly, rubbing his temples, "you're telling me an entire planet of former Jaffa warriors now worship the Simpsons?" "Yep. And they overthrew their Goa'uld overlord because he wasn't funny." "Correct. And they made Teal'c prove himself by eating a donut." "Uh-huh." Hammond sighed. "Jack." "Yes, sir?" "Do we have to report this to the Pentagon?" Jack grinned. "Only if you want to see Kinsey's head explode, sir." Hammond considered that for a long moment. Then he smiled. "Welcome to the team, Jaffa-Springfield." The end.